Winter storm alerts are all the way up the East Coast from the Mid-Atlantic to southern New England, as I've got this final Northeast snowstorm update right here for you, with heavy snow pushing all the way to parts of Boston, heaviest totals right around the city, storms in Florida, and then I've also got a big breakdown of this upcoming massive storm and an Arctic blast on its way behind it. Everything in this video, please hit subscribe. Let's get started. All right, leave me a comment letting me know what weather you've been seeing out of the system so far, if you have been. But let's go ahead and get into the rest of the timing of this as it makes its way on off towards the north and east through the rest of our day today. Now, as we make our way towards the early afternoon hours, we're looking at the HRRR model, pretty much the most accurate short-range model. Parts of Maryland, the northern part of the state especially, parts of Pittsburgh, PA, parts of central and northern Pennsylvania, really getting in on some heavy snowfall starting to settle on in. Harrisburg, PA, on over into parts of Scranton, Pennsylvania as well, northern New Jersey. These areas seeing some heavy snow breaking out, at least to start this event, but also notice there in parts of Harrisburg, Reading, Pennsylvania, we're going to see some ice really knocking on the doorstep as we're going to have some warmer air kind of pushing in into mid to upper levels of the atmosphere here, and that's really going to kind of help to transition this a little bit from south to north. Notice places like Philadelphia and New York City, pretty much just a cold, heavy rain through the rest of our Saturday here and into our Saturday evening. Hartford, Connecticut, it's looking like we'll see some snow try to onset western Massachusetts into the mid to late evening today. Syracuse, New York, you're in a nice, pretty dry snow up there, but this is going to be a heavy wet snow here over parts of southern New York, really Albany southward through Poughkeepsie there. We've got Hartford, Connecticut into 9 p.m. this evening. Boston, the snow should onset soon after sundown tonight, sometime around 9-10 o'clock in Boston. I think that's when we'll see snow onset. And look at how heavy this is. Those silver colors really indicating that it is coming down hard and heavy there. Parts of Providence, Rhode Island, southern New Hampshire, around the Concord area and onto the coastline. This is going to be some really hefty snow, and it's going to be uninterrupted in that area I just circled, with no sleet mix even looking possible there. So it's really looking like that area is going to see the best chance for some decent accumulation with no sleet concerns. And what I mean by sleet concerns is you see those pink colors moving into parts of Rhode Island, Cape Cod, even Boston, right on the edge of some rain and some sleet. Back on over towards, again, Harrisburg, PA, we still see this rain, some of the ice line just trying to push northward as some warm air pushes off the Atlantic. It's the same warm air that's actually fueling a lot of that moisture that's helping to crank out the heavy snow, but as that moisture lifts north, we still have to monitor, again, that sleet line that tries to make its way well past New York City, which is why, again, New York City is in the rain. But as we make our way into our afternoon on your Sunday here, still snowing hard over parts of southern New England. Now Maine getting in the mix as well. It does look like as the day goes on for the rest of our Sunday here, though, and into the evening hours, the snow will work its way on out of the area. And these are the concerns that we have before this snow moves out. Again, we've got the winter storm warnings through parts of Roanoke, Virginia, through parts of central and northern Pennsylvania, southern and central New York, including Albany. We've got this on over towards Boston, southern New Hampshire, as well as parts of southern Maine and the shores there, in those pink winter storm warnings on your screen. Here's your National Weather Service snowfall forecast over the next 48 hours through your January 8th. And look at those deep purple areas here, including parts of south central New York, parts of Massachusetts, a good bit of the state actually, southern New Hampshire, as well as the far southern coast of Maine. Anywhere in those deep purple shades, that's where we're looking at about a foot of snowfall, and this could include Boston, Worcester, all those areas, and then even parts of central and northern PA, parts of even western New York picking up at least a few, maybe even closer to half a foot of snowfall. So a pretty decent event here. And then in terms of ice accretion, we could still see ice getting on up there in a glaze, maybe even a quick coating of some ice on some of those roadways into eastern West Virginia as well as northern state of Virginia, so keep that in mind. We've also got a low-end flood threat through parts of North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, into Delaware, and then this also goes on up into New Jersey and Long Island, including New York City, as that heavier rain, of course, moves on in with that warmer air. Here's the wind gusts that we could see out of the HRRR model, showing some 40, maybe 50 mile per hour wind gusts moving through Philadelphia later today. I think that's on the higher end, but still maybe 30 to 40, certainly not out of the question. Same deal for New York City, but I think especially around Long Island, Cape Cod, these are going to be the areas where we have to monitor for some of the bigger wind gusts out of the system as it pushes on through. And again, some of those could exceed maybe 40 miles per hour at the higher end. If this interacts with some of that snowfall, we could see very brief whiteout/blizzard conditions, but overall it does look like a mainly just snow and slightly breezy event. Another concern that we have is this severe weather potential that we have in Florida, including parts of the area around Cape Coral. There we have a slight risk for severe weather there, and it does include tornadoes. Watching this line through the rest of the day, I think around noontime, right as I'm filming this, into the early afternoon, that's when we have the best chance in that area. I just pointed out with my arrow, that's the best chance for some severe storms. Could we see some damaging winds through parts of South and Central Florida? Yes. Could this include Fort Lauderdale and Miami as the day goes on? Yes. Overall, a lower end tornado threat, but still monitoring right along that southwestern coast of Florida for some severe weather. Now again, monitoring the next storm system that we're going to get. Once this northeast snowstorm I circled originally pushes on out, we're going to see some of the snow in the mountain west that will dump some heavy accumulations. That's going to make its way on out over parts of the central United States. And look at how it does that pretty quickly here as we make our way into our Monday morning. We're going to see some rainfall break out over parts of the Red River Valley of Oklahoma and into parts of Texas. Dallas getting some storms. And then on the northern end, at least some light to moderate snow trying to get going here in a small pocket of Colorado and New Mexico, as well as a small shield up there into South Dakota and Nebraska, as well as southwestern Minnesota. But look at this. This is when we really start to see things get together. By the mid to late afternoon time frame of Monday, a severe weather outbreak, but possibly ongoing here into the Arklatex as well as southern Mississippi and Alabama. A snow shield really starting to pick up in intensity here as this low drops in pressure, strengthening there over parts of Nebraska and Kansas as well as northern Missouri. St. Louis, maybe some sleet out of this. It's looking quite interesting how this could play on out, especially initially as some warmer air tries to lift northward. Definitely more of a wintry system there over parts of Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa, as well as northern Illinois, where we have those storms advancing west to east here at Monday night going into our Tuesday there along the Gulf Coast. And this is as we've got that wraparound flow really strengthening with strong winds because we've got a low pressure system that is strong and a strong high pressure system on off towards the north and east of the system. Those interacting systems really creates that high pressure gradient resulting in those stronger winds. But look at this, snow picks up into northern Missouri, Chicago, Milwaukee, these areas getting in on snow into our Tuesday morning, while we've still got severe weather ongoing down there into parts of Alabama, South Georgia, as well as the Florida Panhandle. As the day goes on Tuesday and into our early Wednesday even, we're going to see that line of storms advance through the Carolinas and eventually offshore. Snow still wrapping back around here into the Great Lakes, the northern Gulf of Michigan, the UP of Michigan. Not really looking like much snow in the northeast out of this. It might start off as some snow here as we make our way Tuesday night into our Wednesday as we're looking at here. And it might be heavy at times as it starts, but it looks like even if you get snow in a place like Boston, it'll quickly turn over to rain as that warm front lifts northward. This is a very dynamic and strong storm system. So that warm front is going to have no problem easing its way on up. Not really even easing its way, just flying northward there. In our severe weather outlook, in that warm sector of the storm, we have the potential for severe weather, including Houston, Lake Charles, New Orleans there in Louisiana. We've got Mobile, Alabama, Biloxi, Mississippi, and then on over into the far western Florida Panhandle. This is where the Storm Prediction Center is outlining and saying in their outlook on day 3 that the potential for strong tornadoes will exist in this area, especially that yellow zone. So if you're in any color on that screen, especially your dark greens and the yellow color, I'd be getting ready for Monday a potential severe weather outbreak that could include tornadoes, as the risk could increase as we get closer. Again, the risk including the potential for strong tornadoes, strong winds, and even large hail as we make our way into our Monday, January 8th. And I'm highlighting already what I'm thinking is going to turn into what I call a high or enhanced risk, so a level 3 of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center scale. They're in the parts of New Orleans, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, as well as the western Florida Panhandle there. And then, of course, as we make our way into our Tuesday, January 9th, look at how this pushes on off towards the east, the severe weather threat, including parts of southeast Alabama, South Georgia, pretty much all of north central Florida, and then the Carolina coastline as well as central parts of North and South Carolina. So really monitoring 2 big zones for severe weather, one on Monday along the Gulf Coast, the second one on Tuesday, including now parts of the southeast coast. This is why we're going to have the severe weather concerns increasing, especially as we go Monday night into our Tuesday. Look at the storm energy. That is quite high in some of those orange and red colors, and especially including parts of New Orleans as well as southern Mississippi. And again, this is why I'm really concerned about how severe weather could really erupt in that region. Of course, it dies down Monday night going into our Tuesday because remember, we're losing that daytime heating. But as we regain some of that instability on our Tuesday, I do think we'll be able to see storms pass through that area I circled and continue into the Carolinas with severe weather embedded. We've already got winter weather alerts being issued for the cold side of this next system. system that's going to include winter storm watches in the northern Texas Panhandle there, Oklahoma Panhandle, and of course we've got all sorts of alerts back into the Rockies as well. But look at the snowfall that we could get out of this system. It's looking like a solid 6 to 10 inches of snow into parts of eastern Nebraska, northeast Kansas, northern Missouri, southern Iowa, Des Moines, maybe 4 to 6 inches, looking like you're on the verge of those totals there. In northern Illinois, also getting some heavy snow. So this is pretty big storm system dynamic on both sides. And this will be blowing snow potentially as well with 40+ mile per hour wind gusts, possibly creating blizzard conditions. A big bullseye for snow is going to be here near Chicago. We could pick up maybe 3 to 6, it's looking like. But if this track that brings, say, 10 to 12 inches of snow there into Milwaukee shifts any further south, that could bring the heavier snow even more into parts of Chicago, northern parts of Michigan as well, in the upper peninsula of Michigan, getting some big totals out of this system. Now, your model blend wind gusts, this is what could create strong winds on both sides as well as those blizzard conditions wrapping around. Look at this, the high plains, 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts coming north to south as we make our way Monday night into our Tuesday. 40 mile per hour wind gusts from south to north here into the southern and eastern United States. But look at how this wind field expands by the time we go to Tuesday afternoon. Again, this area, this is where I'd be watching for maybe a better chance than this first system of those scattered blizzard conditions in the Midwest along with that snowfall. We'll also have very strong wind gusts just offshore of the southeast coast. Meanwhile, though, 30 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts for pretty much everyone onshore. It looks like, though, in that area I just circled of Long Island, Cape Cod, southern New England, we could see 50 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts easily work their way on through, causing power outage concerns. Still seeing wraparound flow 30 to 50 miles per hour behind this system, even as it clears out into our Wednesday. So we'll really have to see how this evolves. But it does look like it will also be a big rainmaker. Big flood concerns through parts of the Gulf Coast, the southeast, as well as on up into the northeast where it rains. 2 to 4 inches of rain looking widespread out of this, and some spots could pick up closer to 4 to 6 inches of rain through the Florida Panhandle, through the Carolinas, and on up into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. So pretty much a big swath of people along the East Coast are worrying about not just wind, not just rain, not just severe storms, but also flooding concerns. Now, also behind this system, we're going to have more winter storms possible, but what I really want to focus on is the temperature anomalies. We're going to see a big polar vortex, pretty much eruption over the United States as we head towards mid to late January. Of course, this first low pressure system, or excuse me, the second one, I guess, the big storm system for this week, bringing that cold air into parts of the southeast, but the polar vortex is going to be waiting here, and it's going to be really sinking on down into the Rockies and the Mountain West as we head towards the end of next week. Look at this. This is ensembles. That mean average of models in the Euro model category here. So bunches of models surrounding the Euro. 40 degrees below average in parts of Montana. We've got this in Wyoming, the western Dakotas. We've got this in Nebraska, Kansas. This really cold air compared to average. We're also going to have warm air out ahead of this in the southeast and the east coast. So this will probably trigger another winter storm late next week into the weekend. Could that bring some snow in another zone of the Midwest and the Great Lakes? Yes, maybe even a bigger snowstorm for that area than what we see with the big storm this week. As long as this polar vortex is waiting to come on down, we're fair game for some big storm systems. Temperatures anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees below average over pretty much the entirety of the country on these ensembles as we head towards exactly around mid-month, with even colder air over the nation's heartland. And look at how this cold air lingers around. This is January 18th. A collection of models already saying it'll be 5 to 15 degrees below average over the entire pretty much east and north central United States. And that cold air just continues lingering around. I don't see it going anywhere as we head towards late January even. And that could really set the stage for southern snowstorms. So we'll have to monitor that. Don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but it does look like the snow track could shift a little further south and maybe be our best chance for southern snow that we see all winter with that cold air in place. Now look at how these temperatures are going to go with the Euro ensembles. Waking up in the mornings and even in the late afternoons, temperatures are going to be below zero as a regular temperature. These are regular temperatures with the Euro ensembles. Saturday morning, this is as we head towards January 13th, below zero north of that second line I drew, below 32 in the blue colors. This is really cold air, everyone. This doesn't look like it is going anywhere as we head towards late month. In fact, it looks like it will potentially shift east into the Great Lakes, the North Central. So be ready for very cold air and well below your seasonal averages, pretty much somewhere, wherever you are in the country. This should be happening at some point by the time we make our way towards the end of the month. Now, your risk of hazardous temperatures is high here over Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska, as well as Kansas as we head our way towards the middle of the month. But it's moderate all the way into the Midwest, the Arklatex region, and at least slight into the Great Lakes, as well as down to the southeast coast. And remember, this could increase further east as well as we go with time, as that polar vortex heads that direction. But look at what this is going to do with the storm system that we could see around January 13th through the 16th. That could bring, we've already got a moderate risk of heavy snow and back into the Mountain West, as well as here over the Midwest and into the Great Lakes and interior New England. So watching those zones, but remember the snow track could eventually shift further south. And then your risk of heavy precipitation at that same time as that graphic I just showed you. It looks quite flood-worthy potential once again here along the southeast as well as the mid-Atlantic coastlines. I really want everybody to be really weather aware the next couple of weeks. And it's really important to stay tuned to me or whatever source you trust for your weather information. Please hit subscribe for those accurate, easy to understand, and passionate forecasts. Hopefully I got all those details, but if you have any questions, leave me a comment down below, or just if you have a comment, leave it down below. That's it for this video. Here's the credits.